So this is Sharon, and I have been wanting to make this video for the last couple of days regarding debt and how detrimental um, debt can be to someone, whether it is something that we're thinking about all the time, or how it can affect our family, how it can affect every part of our lives to the point where we feel like there's nothing we can do about it. What brought me on to think about this is actually two things. One is um, I was filming a section with our local TV station regarding consumer debt, and during the holidays, how this is a issue for us when it comes to the beginning of the year. And also, it really resonated with me, um, dealing with it again when it comes to the issues with the military guy that committed suicide and was killed all those people in New Orleans. Usually, when someone has those mental health issues, a lot of those stem from money, and it stem from the lack of control of money, and where people feel like they don't have a place to go and to do something with their money, or how they should address it. And our society as itself, I really, really feel like in society, we are not addressing how many of our issues stem from money, how many of our issues start off with us losing control of money. And we kind of, the finance issue is a big deal. And if you are compromised when it comes to emotional and mental being, and even if you are physically have issues, it becomes emotional and mental. And money does not have an emotion. It has the emotion that we put on it. And if our society feels like we have nowhere to go when it comes to being deep in debt and having these issues, and we don't know how to solve it, we should try within society. What I'm trying to teach is intentional money management, where we are addressing all these issues before it hits us to the point where we are unfortunately killing all these people, because we have no choice. We're spiraling out of control, and then we feel like we have no choices, but we do have choices. And we have to, as a society, address financial education, because we live in the greatest country in the world, and this is the place that most immigrants come, and they make it here. They make it with $2 in their pocket, and like my father, $100 in his pocket, and 40 years later having a daughter that's a millionaire, and having more daughters that are successful, and having grandkids that are educated and successful. It's possible. One of the things that's great about America is the ability for us to have a middle class and be able to, where there's a will, there's a way. We're able to survive in our society if we find that will. But more and more with consumerism and the confusion out there when it comes to social media and all these different bad news, society is, oh my gosh, inflation is so bad and there's no way out. Don't get me wrong. I do believe that inflation affects us, the government affects us, all these things affect us, but we have more control if we take control than we think we do. We are the ones that control our destiny. The money journey and the finance journey is a journey. You can't say, I'm not going on that journey. You are going to go on that journey. Your journey starts when you are born, and it dies when you're dead, when you are no longer here. Sometimes it lives on beyond where you're living and how long you've lived with your legacy. So we have to decide. We don't have a choice whether we have a money journey or a finance journey. We all have to have one. Our choice now is what kind of a finance journey we have, what kind of a money journey we have. And I don't want to hear the excuse, oh my gosh, we're bad with money, or I'm bad with money, or I can't deal with money. We are all could use some financial education, all of us, including me. There are parts of the finance world that I know nothing about, and there's so much that I'm learning every single day with my podcast or my YouTube or my clients or just hanging out in society or even watching TV and movies. There's so much that I'm learning in that I didn't know what I didn't know. We don't know what we don't know. So we all have to open our minds. And I've heard every excuse in the world. I've heard the excuse when I talk about this with family and friends, because money is such a taboo subject in my society. You don't talk about it unless people are complaining about it, believe it or not. And I don't believe in complaining about money. If we're going to talk about money, it has to be feedback. It cannot be criticism, because criticism is a bad thing. Feedback is a good thing, because that's what I'm going to learn from. And you're trying to teach me something when you give me feedback. So that's what my focus is on. If you have something to say about money, it needs to be feedback, and it needs to be something that you're teaching. And if you're not teaching it and you're not making my life better, then don't talk to me about it. If there isn't something that you want to teach me, whether it's something mistake that you've made in the past, or there's something new that you've learned, that we can work on in terms of investments or a new app or whatever it is, then, and you're just telling me, oh my gosh, life is so bad, inflation is so horrible, eggs are so bad, this is this or that. Okay, that's all true. I'm not denying. I'm not a denier. Those are all true things. But us talking about it, how will that help? How will you tell me how bad inflation is, how bad our government is, and how upset you're at everything? And how are we going to solve that problem? What are you going to do about it? If you're coming to me with a problem, you have to have a solution, or you have to have an idea that you can brainstorm with me about. That is how I work with everything, and especially with money, because the problems that we are having in society with money, and I'm not going to say all the problems, but most of the problems that we're having in society with our money is our lack of control. And the lack of control that we have is purely within us. There's a saying that goes, if you can manage a little bit of money, then you can manage a lot of money. So when you have a little bit and you manage it, you're going to be able to have a lot and manage it. That is why people that are just come into a little bit of money, after a while, they grow broke in 5 years or 10 years, or all these lottery winners that are going broke, because they don't know how to manage it. They have a lot of money, they don't manage it, and it disappears. Most wealthy people are financially educated. They build their wealth by education. They're always educating themselves. Most wealthy people, one of the designations that I have now, it's called a PFS. It's a personal financial planner. When we do that as a CPA, we deal with wealthier people with spending plans. We don't call it a budget, we call it a spending plan. It is the plan that you have that you talk about what you're spending. People who don't do well with money, they do not organize themselves, they don't have a spending plan, they don't know what they're doing with their money. The number one thing that I hear from people who have issues with fundamental basics of money is, I'm broke and I don't know why. And if that is your answer to me, that is the start of the problem. If we're broke, we should know why. We're not doing this, we're doing this, we don't have this. And it's most of the time when someone comes to me and say they're broke, they're telling me they're broke because they don't know where their money went. If you don't know where your money went, that's another part of the problem. You should know by tracking and using your spending plan to plan where your money goes. The issue almost every time that I have seen, especially with veterans and anyone with mental and emotional issues, it starts off where they're either going to commit a crime and commit suicide, or they're going to commit suicide right away. And then the problem always start, oh, they're having money problems, and they had this problem and that problem, and it just escalates from there. Because when you have money problems, then you start having marital problems, you start having problems with your kids, you start losing your home, you can't go to the doctor because you don't have enough money there, you can't drive a car. If you can't drive a car, you can't have a decent job. So the money problem starts and it becomes a domino effect. If us as society pay more attention and are more about what I call intentional money management, we are going to be able to solve a lot of these issues at the beginning. We're not going to be able to solve it by saying, oh, there's a pot at the end and there's gold in it and we're just going to collect the gold. The gold is within you. The gold is within your own self and how you're managing money. Because as a CPA that has been doing this for almost 3 decades, I have seen where people that make less than $100,000 survive on that, live moderately, do things moderately, make goals, go on vacations, buy a house, send kids to school. This is America. We have different levels of living. You cannot want to be living at the $2 million range when you're only making $500,000. So one of the issue is lifestyle creeps. Everybody believes they should be living at a certain level. No, you shouldn't be living at a certain level. You live at the level that your budget allows you. And we have this other saying in our society that's called, you creep before you walk. That's saying a baby starts crawling first. So you get your first car, which might be a beat up secondhand Honda Civic, which was my car. Don't knock that. Or you get a BMW as soon as you graduate college. Almost all these kids, they graduate, they still have $1 million in debt and they want a fancy car. I don't live in my car. So I'm not getting that as soon as I graduate college. I have priorities. And one of the issues with money problems is our societal problem. We're all screwed up when it comes to our priority. We do not have our money priorities in order. There is a way to survive. Millions of people come to America to live the American dream and they survive. They pick strawberries, they clean houses, they mow lawns. And those same people buy houses, send money back to their countries. They do everything because they have a will and they find a way. So we can avoid a lot of these emotional, physical, mental problems that we have a lot of this time if we take control of our money and we learn intentional money habits and advertise that a little bit more. We are so doom and gloom in our society. And when it comes to people that are emotionally and mentally unstable, we drive them over the edge because we make it seems like there's no way out. There is always a way. We can manage debt. We can go back. We've all made mistakes. The key is to learn from those mistakes. You know, what's not a blessing is a lesson. So we learn from those money mistakes and we move on. We find the right person to teach us about it. We do everything that we do within our lives intentionally. What does that mean? That means that you know if you're going to spend $10 on coffee, why are you spending this $10 on coffee? Are you going to do that every day? If you do that every day, that's $70 a week on coffee. That's $70 less to go on your rent. That's $70 less to pay down payment on your credit card. That's $70 less to that vacation that you want, because every opportunity costs something. You give up something to get something else. So if you want a vacation, you have to give up the 7 days a week of coffee. If you want a home, then you have to manage your credit card debt. You have to manage your monthly spending plan because you have a goal to have a home. You have a goal to send your child to college. You have a goal of retirement. All these goals have to be taken into account when you are looking at what you're spending today. So today affects the future. Today just doesn't affect today. And I'm not saying you shouldn't have that cup of coffee, but you don't need to have 7 cups of coffee 7 days a week if your goal is to buy a home, if your goal is to not have credit card debt, if your goal is to send your kid to college, if your goal is to go on a vacation every year. Those goals need to be put into account, and maybe you'll have 1 cup of coffee a week from Starbucks or wherever else you want to have it, or 2 cups of coffee instead of 7 cups of coffee a week. So you have to have your priorities in order. Money priorities have to be in order, and there cannot be five number ones. If your money priority is to buy a house, and that's number one, number two, number three, so you save or you prioritize what you bring into the house, all on that. There's always a number one and number two. They can move. When you get your house, you move your retirement up, and you move the house down or even further down because you already have your home. They can move, but the list is a numerical list, one after each other. That's how priorities work. So what I want to say is that before we get into that instability and the stress and the anxiety over money when it comes to emotional and physical well-being, and especially this time of year when it comes to our credit card debt, we need to sit down, make our spending plan, and prioritize our goals. Thank you for listening. This is Sharon, the Modern Savvy CPA.